Share some info about swim meets so you know what to expect and your swimmer knows what to expect. We do recommend that you download the mobile app called Meet Mobile. That's going to really help you navigate your swim meet experience. There is a free version, but I do think that the paid version is worth it because you're going to be able to get all the heats and lanes for each event that your swimmer is swimming, as well as times and lots of history and things like that. So highly recommend that app. The other thing that kind of popped into my head a little bit is just the general format of what a meet is. So, on the most basic level, a meet is composed of different swimming events. Within each swimming event are several heats. So, there might be 100 kids wanting to swim the 50 freestyle. There's usually only 6 lanes. So, they divide each event into groups called heats of 6 or less swimmers per heat. So there might be 20 heats in an event, and we as coaches and their teammates will help them know what heat they're in, what event they're in. You'll probably see swimmers writing on their arms. If all of that confuses you, don't worry. Just send your kid. Just make sure that they are there at that arrival time and not late, and then we'll have plenty of time to help them figure out what heat and lane and all that good stuff that they're in.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So the first thing I'm just going to talk about is who should come to swim meets. So anyone on the team who is in our what we consider the competitive groups, so bronze all the way through senior, all bronze levels, silver, gold, and senior. Pre-swim team kids, anyone on the pre-swim team roster is also welcome to go to a swim meet, but they need coach's approval. So you can sign your pre-swim team kid up for that swim meet. And we, as the coaches, will decide if we think that they're at a level to compete in a few events. Most of the pre-swim team kids are. They have the skill to be able to do maybe some 50s or 25s, depending on their age. So we often get questions, why should my kid go to a swim meet? They're not really here for the competitive aspect. They're more here just for social or exercise or just for fun. And that's great. We encourage the social, the fun, the exercise. But we really believe that swim meets can include all of that. It doesn't have to necessarily be a big competitive thing. A lot of the meets we go to can feel very casual. But why they're important is they really bond the swimmers with their teammates. You really feel more like a team with the people that you're with when your child is at a swim meet. They have time to talk in between their races. They're cheering each other on. It's a good way to get to know each other. Some of the swim meets have relays, so that's just another way they feel more like a team. And then it really is an amazing way to show their progress and to stay motivated swimming. So even if your child is like, I don't want to go to a swim meet, I'm just there for fun, all those things. We have found that a lot of kids that are resistant to the swim meets, once they go, they're actually like, wow, I am way faster than I thought. Or then they go to a second swim meet and they see, oh my goodness, my 50 freestyle, I am 3 seconds faster than I was 2 months ago. And that just keeps them motivated to come to practice, to work hard in practice. And really, they can see their progress swimming. While we love the team environment of it, it is such an individual sport in a way that seeing those time drops, all of those things that they really can only see in the swim meets. It's just an exciting thing for kids, and it keeps them involved in the sport, and it keeps them motivated to keep working hard for us and showing up to practice.
Okay, I'm going to talk about how to register for swim meets, or what we call declaring. So you might see an email from us that says something like, please declare for the swim meet, or, let us know what's going on. We're talking about declaring. Okay, so you'll be on harboroaquaticsclub.com. You're going to go to the events right here and make sure you're logged in, because if you're not logged in, you won't be able to declare. You're going to find the swim meet. And for training purposes, I'll just select this this meet info session as if it was a meet. So that's right here. You'll find that. And you can either click on the actual event or click on edit commitment. Either way, you're going to be editing the commitment. And then it will take you to kind of your personal account. You're going to select the member. So in this case, I'm just selecting myself, but you would be selecting your swimmer. And then you're going to say either yes or no. So you can declare if you know you're not going to be at a meet. That can be helpful for us because then we know that you're unavailable and we won't bother you about signing up. So in this case, I'll say yes, and then I can put some special requests down here like, no butterfly, please, or yes, 200 butterfly, please, we're ready, whatever you might say. And sometimes we won't be able to honor it, but we usually do try to honor special requests. For some meets, you're going to be selecting, certain days, certain sessions. If you leave this blank, then we're going to assume that you're going to be available for the entire meet and we will sign you up for the entire meet. So if you know, oh, I can only go on Saturday, I can't go on Sunday, that's a really good place to put that in there. Even if you are selecting only a certain session or only a certain day officially, if that is available to you, it can be helpful for us to have that redundancy just to make sure we don't accidentally schedule you on a day that you can't be there. Okay, and then you're going to save changes, and that will make sure that you're declared, and then we'll know you're going to the swim meet. So each meet has a registration deadline. And in that same event section where you're going to edit your commitment, it will tell you what that registration deadline is. And just be aware that sometimes it can be months in advance, that deadline. Usually it's about 3 or 4 weeks before the meet itself is a deadline. So, if there's a lot of buzz on the pool deck, usually the week of a swim meet, and then kids get excited and they want to go to the swim meet that they hear all their friends talking about, but they've missed the deadline by weeks and weeks. So you as parents just keep an eye on that. And if you have any questions about deadlines coming up, just, email us or, just make a habit of maybe checking that events page once a month or something and seeing if there's anything that you need to register for. If you've missed the deadline to declare, like let's say you go to declare and it says the it's closed and you're only within like 12 hours or a day of it closing, feel free to email us and we will try to get you into the meet. If it's like a week past is way too late, and even a couple days sometimes is too late. But it doesn't hurt to check, sometimes, like Apple Capital, for example, sometimes we can get you in last minute.
All right, so when you go to look at those swim meets, some of them you will see in big capital letters, it will say qualifying meet. And that just means that there's a time standard to go to the swim meet. The time standard could be that you have to be this fast in at least one race to go to the meet, or it could be that you are too fast to go to the meet. So just pay attention to that if it says qualifying time. We know if your child has the qualifying time. So if you can make the day and it's the proper age group for your child, then say that you're coming, and then we will let you know if they do or do not have the qualifying time. It's helpful for me because for a champs meet, let's say, those qualifying times, I will know pretty much right away if your kid has a qualifying time for that meet or not. And if I see that you didn't register for the meet, I'll normally go double check with you and just say, hey, so and so has a qualifying time for this swim meet. Do they want to come? It's kind of a big deal. But sometimes that might just get missed. So just if you're available for any meet, register and we will take care of the qualifying times. And we'll let you know, hey, they actually don't qualify for this meet, so don't plan to go. And then I can on my end just make sure that you're no longer registered. But it's really helpful if you can just sign up for all swim meets that you can make. If it works for your schedule and your kid wants to go, sign up, and then we'll take care of the rest. So once your child is signed up for a swim meet, I will, and I send in the entries, all of those things kind of happen actually very close to when the competition is going. So I send in the entries, the host team will compile our entries and all the other teams, and then they send out the timeline for the meet. They send out any schedule changes. They send out requests for timers, anything like that. A lot of times people are waiting for those emails from me to know what time should my kid show up? What's the timeline looking? How many heats are there? What heats are there in? Those are all things that we're all looking for. Please know that I send those to you as soon as I get them. So when I get information from the host team, then I make up my own email, send it out to you within like 12 hours of receiving it from the host team. Sometimes those host teams do not send them until the day before the swim meet. Now that's rare. Usually it's at least 2 days. It's really nice if they give me 3 days notice, but that doesn't always happen. But I'm waiting for the email for the timeline and all that stuff. And as soon as I have it, I get an email ready and try to send it to you guys. So hopefully it's on the Wednesday before the meet weekend. That is the ideal time that I would send it to you. But it can be as late as the day before the Friday. That has only happened a few times, but just know that be on the lookout for the Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday before the weekend of competition. And then on those emails, really the main thing to pay attention to is the session. So if your child is 10 years old, they would be in the 12 and under session. And I will have an arrival time for them in the 12 and under session. That's really the most important thing to know is that they need to show up for that arrival time no matter what. So if you look at the timeline and go, oh, well, they're in the 50 free and that's not scheduled to swim until 11 a.m. And I say to arrive at 8, they still need to be there at 8 a.m. for the warm-ups, to be a part of the team for the whole event, for things like positive check-in. So just make sure that you are arriving at the arrival time for the session. Yeah, so just be on the lookout for those swim meet emails. If you feel like you missed it, like let's say it's the day before the swim meet and you haven't seen an email yet, feel free to email me and check in. And sometimes they go to people's spam, very rarely, but we have had that happen a few times where people are like, "Are you going to send out an email?" And I'll say, "Oh, I did 2 days ago," and they look in their spam and they find it. So you can look there, but I'm not bothered by a quick email asking if it's been sent out yet. So feel free to do that.
Okay, so day of the meet, or maybe the night before, you're packing up everything that your kids are going to need for your swim meet. So the kids are going to need a black or red swimsuit. It doesn't matter what kind of swimsuit necessarily, as long as it's a well-fitting swimsuit, but it needs to be black or red. They need to have their team swim cap and they need to have at least one pair of goggles. We recommend having some extra gear, an extra swim meet, or an extra swimsuit, an extra swim cap, extra goggles. Things break, things tear. Um, Anything can happen. It's good to have backups. Any gear that you might have, so a hoodie, t-shirts, anything with the Hack logo on it. It's a great time to just show your team spirit and have some extra gear. You're going to want to have warm clothing in between events. Sometimes there can be an hour or more between events. Even though the pool decks can be relatively warm, athletes can get cold, and sometimes they don't even realize that their joints are cold. So having something that's nice and loose fitting and cozy to put on in between events is very important. So sweatpants, hoodies, a parka, even like a light blanket is nice to have. I like to bring a beanie, like a knit beanie. That's a really easy way to just kind of heat up your core a little bit. We sell hack beanies, so it's a good time to just throw that in the kids' swim bag. Socks are good. And then duplicates of all these items isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like 2 pairs of socks is good. Pool decks are very wet. Um, You want to have at least two towels. When I was a kid, I overdid it and I would bring, a towel for every event. So I would show up with six towels. If your kid likes that, that's fine. But usually with indoor meets, two or three towels is probably enough. But just be aware you're definitely going to need more than one towel. You want to bring a water bottle with water or a sports drink or maybe both. Some healthy light snacks. Usually with swimming, kids aren't going to want to eat, like a full meal during the swim meet, but definitely having some fruit snacks, maybe some crackers, something that they can kind of munch on between events is a really good idea.
All right, so some more just about that day of swim meet. So I'm gonna bring up the arrival time again. It's just very important to show up at the arrival time, no matter how silly it may seem based off the timeline. Uh, we, as coaches, we're looking for your kid at that arrival time. Many meets have something that is called positive check-in for their events, and that is so that they can make the timeline as quick running as they can possibly make it. So they want to know which kids are here and which kids are not going to be here. So if we hear from you the day before and you say, oh, my child's sick, we can then scratch your child from their events, and that can speed up the timeline. But if your child is there, they need to do something. Most meets make them do it themselves, as coaches can't do it for them. They need to do something called positive check-in, and that's just putting their initial next to the events. We will help them do that. So don't stress about it as a parent. That is our job as coaches to help your child do and teach them how to do it, which is so we will help them with all of that. But if they're not there at the arrival time, they can't positive check in. And if they're not there during the warm-ups, and some of the people who run the meets are very nice and they'll come up to us and say, hey, your swimmer didn't positive check in or they didn't scratch, are they coming? If they're not there, Hillary and I, Helen, all of us coaches, we're going to go, they're not here. So I'm assuming they're not coming. We as coaches actually can kind of get a slap on the wrist if we do check in a child and they end up not showing up. So it's just our policy not to do it. We just make sure that the kid is actually there, we can see them, and we'll take them to positive check-in. But that arrival time is so important. If you show up late, you might have missed the positive check-in and you might show up and not be able to swim your events. So just on the day of the swim meet, we also want the kids to sit with their teammates. We want it to be a team environment. We want them cheering for their teammates. We want them close to us coaches. Sometimes, even though a kid will see, oh, there's an hour until I swim again, sometimes that hour can go really fast. And if they go up to sit with their parents or go, outside, we don't know where they are. And if they need to go head over to their event, then we're spending time searching around. We might miss a swim. It's just very nice for all the kids to sit in the same place together. That way we can help them head up to their events when it's time to do so. We also just want to make sure that the swimmers check in with us before and after each race. So please just encourage and remind your kid to do that. We remind them ourselves, but if it's just something that maybe parents talk about on the way to the swim meet, like, hey, make sure to check in with Coach Gianna before your races, or even after the meet, be like, oh, well, did you check in with your coaches after the races? It's just a good habit for them to get into. Often when they check in with us, it's just a very good way for us to know that they're heading to their event. They're not going to miss it. And then when they check in with us after they're done with their race, we might have some really small comment that will help them in their next race. Or we are really excited about what they did and we want to tell them great job. So we just want to make sure they're checking in before and after their race. Swimmers only need to stay until their last event is complete. So if your kid is in 4 events and they're all within the first 2 hours, and their session is 3.5 hours long, they don't have to stay until the last swimmer swims. But it is nice if they want to and they want to cheer everyone on. It's really great when they do. So If your kid is excited and say, oh, I want to stay and watch my friend swim, they're in this event, I encourage parents to let them if your time allows for it, because it is really just a nice team thing. Kids who are in the very last event and all their friends have already left, it can kind of be a little bit of a bummer to climb out and not have any friend there to tell you good job, or anyone at the end of your lane cheering for you because you were in the last event. So it's not required, but it is nice if they do that. And yeah, swimmers should just be cheering on their teammates when time allows. So if they don't have an event coming up for a while and they have teammates swimming, it's nice to see kids from our team at the end of the lane cheering each other on. And then parents, your job at the swim meet is to bring your child on time and stay in your section and cheer them on. But most swim meets have a very obvious parent section, and they have a very obvious coaches, athletes, volunteers section. Please make sure that you respect that. If you feel like you really need to talk to your child, just try to wait until the end of the meet. And if some emergency comes up and you need to leave early or anything like that, like, you can email us. I have my phone on me at the meets, and I'll see an email pop up to me if they need to get out of there and go really quick for some reason.
Okay, so every meet needs volunteer timers, and a meet cannot run without volunteer timers. So it is usually assigned to each team that each team needs to provide a certain amount of timers. There are many meets that Harbor Aquatics is not required to provide a timer. However, anytime we are asked to provide a timer, that's a big deal. It's a requirement. The officials will come up to the coaches and start asking around if we don't have our timers. Um, I'll be honest, as a coach, that's not something we want to be worried about. We want to be thinking about the kids and how they're doing and making sure that the kids are getting what they need, so that they're feeling comfortable and ready for their races. We don't want to be tracking down parents morning of. So anytime you see an email from us that is asking for a volunteer timer, please, please be generous with that and realize that if we all just do a little bit, it's only a small burden, and it's not something that falls on the same person over and over again. We try to monitor that a little bit. If we see the same person volunteering, we might kind of gently nudge them to just wait, because we want everyone to have a chance to participate. It truly is the best seat in the house. It's a very easy job. Don't feel intimidated about what if I get it wrong. There's redundancies built in. As the volunteer timer, you are actually the backup for the electronic timing system. So you're kind of there just in case. And it is an important job, but don't feel like, the swimmer's hopes and dreams are just on your shoulders with getting that stopwatch just right. There's always at least two timers per lane. It's very rare for both of those stopwatches to not work properly. And then there's actually a third timer that is starting at least two stopwatches for every single event. And if you have a malfunction, they're there to swoop in and give you a backup stopwatch. So they have a whole system built in. They make it as easy as possible. And most swim meets, you're only doing a shift. So you might do like a 1 hour shift or a 2 hour shift. Worst case scenario, you're there for like 4 hours timing. And it's a good way to kind of get to know one or two other people on the team. They usually sit two people from the same team together. So it's a great way to just kind of get to know your fellow teammates and your fellow parents. And maybe you do it one meet a year would be great. If you are participating in meets, just kind of be ready for that. And we've been to many meets where things get delayed because parents can't volunteer, and then they have to wait and they're calling the team, where is your timer? It can be stressful. So just be prepared and ready to volunteer anytime.
So just a little bit more on the day of. It's kind of redundant. I know that I've said these things before, but just that day of etiquette, it really is just swimming etiquette for the swimmers to stay with their team during the meets. So if Also, I would just encourage you as parents to give your child a deck of cards to bring down to the meet, to give them something that's interactive, and encourage them to stay off their cell phones. Um, I am definitely the type of coach that if I look back and I see all our swimmers next to each other scrolling, I will say something and have them put the phone down, give them maybe a coloring book with extra markers that they can do with each other, just things that they can interact with their teammates, get to know them. We want to see just that team feeling, that etiquette where we are caring about each other, we're interacting, we're spending face-to-face time with one another. Uh, as coaches of swimming, we're very, very lucky that when we are coaching our sport, cell phones are just not a distraction for kids because they can't have them in the water. So swim meets is really the only time where we deal with that. And we just want to make sure that we're continuing that environment of being face to face with each other. Yeah, and then again, they just need to stay with their team in our team area. Normally, we'll have our banner up, and it's pretty obvious where we want the kids to put their stuff. And we need to be able to talk to the kids at any time. If your kid all of a sudden, looks up at you in the stands and they have broken goggles and they don't have an extra pair, uh, I always bring extra pairs of goggles, extra swim caps to the meet. I know Hillary does as well. So just we've got it taken care of. So even if they have that moment, you can stay in the stands and just point to us and we'll help them out. Just remember that it's super important that we keep those areas very obvious. Athletes, coaches, parents in a different area. And volunteers. So if you are volunteering as a timer, then you are allowed down in the athlete area. That is something that I do sometimes see though, is if a kid has their parent timing, they might just go and hang out with their parent while they're timing and sit behind them pretty much the whole meet when they're not swimming. Just even if that's the case and you are on deck volunteering, encourage your kid to go over with their team and sit in our area. During swim meets, there is a lot going on. And sometimes the coaches, we look like we are just sitting at a table watching swimming. And we might look like we're very calm and we're not stressed at all. And I'll be honest that we're just good at faking it. So it can be very hectic in there, the noise, kids are asking us questions constantly. So please just respect our space and unless it's absolutely necessary, don't add another question to us. Sometimes I will, have a parent, shouting down at me because they think that their kid's not in their event or they miss positive check-in. Just trust us and let us do. We notice those things typically before anyone else, and we usually have gotten it taken care of. So just respect our space. We want to be able to answer your kids' questions, and we want to not miss anyone's swims. And it can be very difficult to do that when we are having a lot of people talking to us, asking us questions during the meet. So this is why we wanted to do a meeting like this, just so maybe we could help people feel a little bit more confident going into the meet of what they need to be doing as parents and what they need to be looking for. So.
Yeah, so swimming is a great opportunity for your child to build independence. And even if that means that they miss their race or they make a mistake or they get disqualified or there's some confusion or stress, these are all opportunities that are great for your kids to build confidence and just learn. And it's very normal for that environment to be a bit of a roller coaster, and most kids come away from it stronger and more resilient. So just trust that process, and we're all learning together. So it is a really good opportunity for your kids to grow. Um, we're almost done. We just have a couple minutes. I just want to point out two swim meets that are kind of more of a longer deadline between when they occur and when they happen. So we have a meet that we go to every year. It's one of our favorites. It's called Apple Capital, and it's in Wenatchee. It's one of the only away meets that we do in the season. Most meets are within an hour's drive. Apple Capital is in Wenatchee each year. And The deadline is usually in February or March to declare, and the meet is not until the very end of May. It's usually that very last weekend in May or maybe the first weekend in June. So just be aware that we're going to start nudging people to declare for Apple Capital, as early as probably January, February. You're going to start seeing emails from us. We do think that this is a meet that if you went to one meet a year, this is the meet to go to. We definitely encourage more meets than this, but this is a really good team bonding meet. Kids have the opportunity because they're usually staying overnight in a hotel. There's some downtime at the hotel with their friends. The meet itself is run really well, but there's often more time between each event, which means that kids get a lot more chances to interact with each other and grow. Year after year, we see kids who didn't know each other going into the meet, and they come out of the meet best friends. So this is a great team bonding event. We as coaches have a really good time getting to know your swimmers better during this meet. So highly, highly recommend Apple Capital. Parents also have a tendency to become closer during this meet and meet new friends. So Apple Capital, definitely mark your calendars for that. It's almost always the weekend after Memorial Day. The other one that's coming up is a little bit more specialized. It's open water competition, and this one is going to be in Hawaii in June. So this is going to be open to any swimmer who's been doing our Open Water August program, any swimmer who's in silver or gold, or a senior swimmer. And if your child is interested in this and they're not in one of those categories, just come talk to us and we'll kind of walk you through what your child might need to do to qualify for this event. It is something where you'll need a qualifying time. So you're going to want, if this is a goal of yours, you're going to want to pay special attention to the meets this fall and this winter, because they're going to need to start getting into 200s, 500s, miles, things like that, so that they can get some times on the books for this event. You have to have a certain time to qualify for these open water events. But we're probably going to make the deadline for this one pretty soon, I would think. So just keep an eye out for that for more information. Did I miss anything, Gianna?
No,
We only have 2 minutes left.
I think we are good. So, once again, if you have any questions that you feel like we didn't answer, you can email us and we'll try to help you out as best we can. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here, everybody.